Hey, what's going on YouTube? Marine X back at it again. All right, let's just talk about this power station. This is the Bluetti Elite 200. Bluetti is sponsoring this video. As you guys know, they read my ethics statement just like everyone else. I got a lot of good things to talk about this. This video, the purpose of this video, introduce you to the new product, show you the replacement for the Bluetti AC200, and also decide whether or not this may be the purchase for you. We're going to talk about the overview, the ways that I tested, how did it grade when it came to my objective testing, as objective as I can be for some of this testing, glaze it a little bit, talk about the things that I don't like, and then just kind of overall tell you where it stands. So this is the Bluetti, the Elite 200 V2. So V2, Elite 200, it didn't exist before, at least for my research. I believe this is the replacement for the Bluetti AC200. This is a 2073 watt hour capacity unit, which is like damn near in the size of a 1000 kilowatt hour capacity unit. Like it reminds me of those units that are similar in size, but this is packing more capacity. 2600 watts of continuous use. It can surge up to 3800 watts just in case you need it. Has some pretty good specs on it. It goes low decibels. The high decibel mode on this thing is 50 dB. I'm going to stress that a lot because through all my testing, it gave me an indicator that the fan was running on this, and I never heard the fans. I don't have one of those decibel testers, but I've seen tons of these units, and I know when a unit is loud AF. One con about this, in the box, you get the AC input, and you also get the solar cable, but you don't get that DC to solar cable plug so that you can charge this when it's in your vehicle. To be fair, every unit that I've gotten except for two, this one and another one, have given me that cable. I haven't used it in any of my trips. So maybe Bluetti has tested that and they realize that people don't need it. If you need any, it doesn't give you a lot of cables, or you don't get USB-C to USB-C, which would be nice to charge your stuff. It's not giving you the cable I just talked about, so you're not getting that. And if that's something that you need, then you can buy that from their website or get it third party. Just going over the features of it. So the very front of it, this stuff, first, it's 53 pounds. So it is, don't get it twisted, because it is the size of a 1000 kilowatt hour unit. It's not the weight. It's heavier. It's using LiFePo 4 batteries. Now, just going over this in the front, you do get, for the AC inverter, you get 4 AC ports. These are rated at 20 amps. And I like the fact that they don't have the covers on them. Okay, so that's one big thing that's important for me. While I'm at every section, I'm going to tell you what I do and don't like. 4 ports is cool. With this capacity, through my testing, I kind of wish we got 6 ports. Now, I understand the concept of you don't necessarily need that, but with this type of capacity, 2073 watt hours of capacity, you want to just sling it around. Okay, you would like to sling that around a little bit more, but I understand if you would have gave me 2 more ports, then the unit would have probably had to be bigger, but I get that. All right. Here in the front, you're getting 2 USB-Cs, 2 USB-As. I'll talk about the complaint while I'm here. The USB-As are rated at 15 watts. I'd like to be those 18 watts. And then the USB-Cs are rated at 100 watts each. It would be nice if one of those could max themselves out like 140 watts. That might be a future upgrade. A lot of competitors are doing that, but it is what it is. You get the nice, very common screen that Bluetti uses. I like how this is laid out. It's very, very just kind of reads like a book. Upper left corner lets you know your DC input if you are solar charging this, or if you're charging it with the AC, the DC input in a vehicle, or the alternator input in a vehicle. If you're outputting with DC, it's going to let you know right here. And just to let you know, this is 12 volt at 10 amps. I'll talk about the testing that I did for that and the crazy capacity testing that this unit did, but let's not jump ahead of that. So you got whatever output is there, it will show up on this part of the screen. Then on the other side, same thing. AC input, whatever's being input via the AC port will be here. And then you got the AC output right below that. So you can see what's being used from the AC inverters. And then it kind of lets you know other little icons, like if there's a little moon with Z's on it, it lets you know that the screen is set to go to sleep at a certain time. And if it has a muscle arm guy, that means that this thing is made to go into high surge mode, so it can get you that 3,800 watt surge mode. If it has a Wi-Fi symbol, it's connected to Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So just kind of like symbols that kind of all make sense. So that's what you get on the front. On the side, it's nothing on this side, just kind of the input for the actual fans. And then on this side, you are getting the AC import, the ground, if you need to ground this. I've never had to ground any of my solar generators ever, but if that's something that you like to do or you do very often, then that's something you want to think about. Then the circuit protector switch if you need to reset the AC inverter. So no battery expansion port on this. No parallel port on this. You can't hook two units together. That is something that may be a pro or con for you. For all my units, the system that I'm heavily invested in, I normally want a battery expansion port. But if this is kind of going to be your workhorse type of unit, then maybe you don't care about that, and that might be something that you're thinking about. 1,800 watts is what you're going to get when it comes to the AC input for this unit. That's about as much as you're going to get out of a wall plug here in the United States. 120 volts is what we're rocking. If you're in the EU and you got 230 volts, which seems to be, you guys are doing it right out there, you're going to be able to get 2,300 watts out of the wall in this unit. So this unit can do more, but here in the States, you are limited by the capacity of your house. But if you combine this with the DC input, whether it's the alternator version or the solar or whatever, you can get a maximum of 2,400 watts inputting on this. That means you can charge this in less than an hour if you're getting full sun, or if you're fully getting an alternator charging combined with your AC. Craziness. You can get a lot going on in here. If you do solar only, you can get 1,000 watts solar on this. And one thing I like about this unit is that the actual cord that comes for this has a splitter. So literally it's already designed to have two solar panels put into it from purchase. That's nice. You don't have to go buy that cord aftermarket. The switch over time for the UPS feature, uninterruptible power supply, it's almost becoming like a standard that if you are pumping out these units nowadays, that you should be rocking less than 20 milliseconds. So for me personally, if I was below 1,000 watts of use, I was getting UPS features all the time. So I did email Bluetti and I asked them, I was running a heater off of this. I ran a heater off of this, and I ran an AC unit off of this. Both of those continuously drew. One of them drew 1,300 watts from the unit, and the AC, the heater drew 1,600 watts from the unit. So if I had this plugged into grid power, meaning if I had this plugged into the AC port, then I was using the AC inverter, or I was bypassing the AC inverter to power that item. As soon as I unplugged it from the wall, if I was running over 1,000 watts, those items dipped, whether it was the AC or it was my heater. Did the same thing for my heat gun, which draws, if it was drawing over 1,000 watts, but if I was running my heat gun on low at 800 watts, it did not do that. I ran a sump pump off of this grid power, and then I switched over to the AC inverter. The sump pump was running at 530 watts for an hour and a half. And an hour and 15 minutes, I unplugged it from the house, and the sump pump did not skip a beat. So that's something to think about. So if you're running a CPAP machine, if you're running an alarm clock or something like that off of this, I'm confident that if it's 1,000 below, you're not going to have to worry about the UPS tripping. But if it's over that, I'm not sure why you would need to use this as a UPS for something that's running over 1,000 watts. I just wanted to talk about that during my testing of what the results of that. So we got to talk about my AC drain test for this unit. And for when I do an AC drain test on any unit, doesn't matter which one, I charge and drain the unit 3 times. Takes forever, especially with these larger capacity units. But I feel like, I don't know, I feel like the unit needs to stretch his legs out. I don't know how many times at factory they do that, but when I get it, it does not matter the brand. I charge it and I usually drain it out. One of them is a fast draw. Maybe I'll hook up like a space heater or an AC unit to it and draw it down in a couple of hours. I'll do an extended draw when I just hook up like a 70 watt floor fan, and that takes forever to draw it. But when I do that, I feel like I've fully woken up the batteries and I'm really ready to test the AC in the DC drain test. Now for this unit has got it received the highest AC drain test I have done on any unit. I'm going to show you my spreadsheet When I show you this spreadsheet, I'm not comparing it to other units. I want to compare it to the standard. If I was spending my money and I wanted to buy a unit, what would be my standard? For this one specifically, this unit has a capacity of 2,073.6 watt hours. I was able to draw 2,022 watt hours on the low end. I had to run this test 3 times because I really thought my fans weren't working. The unit was letting itself over. Like I couldn't figure out why was it drawing, why was it drawing 97, 98% of capacity for this unit. I ran the test 3 times. I ran it with an AC unit, which is running right now. I ran it with a space heater. I ran it with a very long draw, which was extremely boring, and it took a long time, but I did it with a floor fan. And I put in my spreadsheet the lowest test, the one that did the worst. 97% capacity usage in that test. That's crazy. That makes you look past the fact that this doesn't have a parallel port, doesn't have a battery expansion port, because, I mean, maybe you don't need a battery expansion, because if you're getting 97% and the unit's not working that hard, you're getting so much of the capacity that maybe you're okay with that. The DC drain test was also the best DC drain test that I've done for any unit whatsoever. My DC drain test, I got 1837.8. So 1,837.8 watt hours is what I drained out of this unit through my DC test. And when I do that testing, I have a port here where I go directly here into the 12 volt port. I run this at 10 amps and it's about 120 watts and it takes a long time. But I did that test 2 times and I still got 88, let's call it 89% drain from the DC test. Crazy good numbers. Another test that I ran on this is, can it maintain concurrent watts? This thing says it can pump out 2,600 watts continuously, meaning until it dies. And if you can maintain your specs until it dies, then I give you 100%. If you can only maintain your watts for 2 minutes, I give you 80%. If you only can maintain your watts for 1 minute, I give you a 60%. And then that's how we normally run those numbers. For this specific unit, I was able to run the 2,600 watts continuously until it died. So it scored a 100% on that. The next test I like to talk about is, can it reach and maintain its peak? And then so this thing says it can do 3,800 peak. And so if it can reach and maintain its peak for less than a second, just reach it. That's the goal. Can it do it? I give it 80%. If it can do it for 5 seconds, I give it 90%. If it can do it for 10 seconds, I give it 100%. If it can do it at those numbers, then that's just pretty crazy. I haven't had a lot of units that can do that. This one, the 3,800 watts, first off, it took me forever to gather up the items that can do that, plugging up that. It can do it, but once I try to push it past that, it trips itself. So can it do it? Yes. Can I do it longer than 5 seconds? No. So it did get an 80% on that. So combined score for this unit puts it at, for my objecting testing, it gives this the highest score that I've had in any of these units right now. What are some things that are missing in comparison to some of its kin? The Bluetti AC200L does have the charging port on the top. If you care about the charging port to be able to give yourself a little quick charge, that might be nice. On the side, it has the battery expansion ports. It has, I think, the parallel ports on the side, so you can connect this with other units. It has the port so that you can, the 30 amp port so that you can hook this to an RV. So that has a little bit more user interface ports, but this one here is kind of putting itself in, not trying to be a lot of everything. This one has worked well for me in a couple of scenarios. I have a hoarder house, okay, which means that I do a lot of projects around the house. The way I like to incorporate my solar generators into my life here is, normally if I have a project to do that's going to require AC, I like to drag one of these units out, and that could be anything. That's keeping a fan blowing on me while I'm working on something. That can be, illuminating an area on the ground while I'm trying to gather Christmas lights. Maybe I need to run a corded circular saw or a corded miter saw to do some cross cuts or some rips on some different wood. That's where I want to see some more features in the app. The app has a lot of things in it that are just unique compared to other apps. First off, the Bluetti app, they have a one-up on some of their competitors' apps simply because of how this unit works. My last day of testing for this unit, it's primarily connected via Wi-Fi. When I woke up in the morning, my 9-year-old and my wife and my sister-in-law all were complaining to me that the Wi-Fi was out. Like, what are you talking about? Reset the router. That didn't work. I get an email from my internet service provider letting me know there's an outage and it should be fixed within 4 hours. Well, that kind of sucks. Every single one of my units were hooked up via Wi-Fi. Now, they all have the option to be Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. This unit was hooked up with both, meaning when I took it out to use it for draining my pool, I had to connect the sump pump to it, and I wanted to turn off the AC inverter. I was 40 feet away from the unit, and I needed to turn off the AC inverter because I'm holding the sump pump. I got dirty water all over me. I can't stop when I'm doing walk over to the unit. Wi-Fi is out, so I can't talk to the unit with Wi-Fi. The app automatically switched over to Bluetooth. Gave you the option to switch over to Bluetooth, and I was able to control the unit. I like that. I like the fact that you can do that. But the app does need some work in a few areas. I want to see in the app the ability to turn on different ports on a schedule. Okay, so if I want the AC inverter to turn on, let's say 5:30 in the morning, so that it will, anything plugged into the AC inverter, as long as those things are powered on, will automatically turn on. Warm up my espresso machine, before I get out here. That would be nice to be able to do. Same thing with the DC port. Maybe I have some stuff in the USB-C ports or the DC port that I have plugged up, and I want it to turn on at a certain time or certain way. It would be nice if those things could be, if I can control that. It would be also nice if this thing could turn itself off. Some of their competitors, I like to just keep the AC inverter turned on all day, but around 2100, 2130, turn it off. I don't need you drawing any more watts from the sending any more watts through the AC inverter to anything plugged up to it after a certain time. I would like that, but that seems like that's firmware. I feel like they can send that down via firmware. Now, it does have an AC eco mode, meaning that you can set the AC ports to shut down after a certain amount of hours. So that's nice. So say, for instance, I turn this on at 2000 and I'm going to make myself a late night espresso, and you can set it up in the app to automatically turn the AC ports off after an hour or 2 hours or 4 hours. You can do that, and it will always do that. So anytime you turn on the AC ports, the AC inverter, if you have it set up in the app to turn itself off in eco mode, it would just turn it off. Same thing with the DC, but I want a full schedule of on and off. That would be nice. Also, for the auto sleep mode means it turns off the screen, which saves some power, but it keeps the actual unit turned on. I would like the screen to stay on for 30 minutes. That's just my preference. It just turned off right now. Any of these units, I like the screen to stay on for 30 minutes after I give it a command, whether I plug something up or I'm AC charging it or solar charging it. Because for the next 30 minutes, I'm normally interacting with the machine, whether I'm running my coffee mess or whatever. And so I want a 30-minute option. Right now, I think it's 30 seconds, 1 minute, and 5 minutes, or never. Those are your options. If you can give me a 30-minute option, that would be pretty nice as well. All right, so for the charging mode, I want a little bit more control of the charging features as well. Right now, it's silent, standard, or turbo. Silent mode, obviously, it's for the fans to be quieter, but also silent mode is to help preserve the life of the batteries. The slower you pump watts into those batteries, the longer that you can extend the lifespan of the batteries. I want a little bit more control. I want to be able to say, draw 300 watts or draw 800 watts or draw 1750 watts, whatever. I want to be able to tell the unit how many watts I want you to draw via the AC input. So give me some more control of that as well. The uninterruptible power supply, it does have different UPS modes, which I've never seen in another app. You can dive deep into the instruction manual. I'm not a dive deep in an instruction manual type of guy. So for the UPS features, keep it in the app, but maybe give me a little, other competitors have like a little question mark that you can push on next to every feature and would automatically tell you, if you click this mode, this is what it does. So within the app, give me a little question mark, which is like an instant help. Even if you take me to a website, just tell me what that feature will do if I enable it. The last couple of features I want on specifically for the app is to be able to control how much this unit charges and discharges. If this is going to be my forever unit, I want to be able to tell the unit, don't charge yourself beyond 90%, or don't drain your battery below 10%. So I can keep it in a sweet spot and try to maintain the levels of the batteries, or even more precise, don't go below 88%, or don't go below 11 or 13% or whatever. So that those small minute changes I would like to have in the app itself, if you're going to give me that, not on the unit. If the Bluetti AC200L continues to exist, then some of the features from that unit I don't need on this one. I don't necessarily need the parallel ports if that has it, or if it has the battery expansion port or the 30 amp port for the RV. I don't need that, because if this is a cousin to that unit and it has more capacity and it performs better because it's keeping less things cool. That's why I think this unit does so well when it comes to the AC and DC drain tests. There are less electrical components to keep cool in the unit. Even if they're not being used, if they're near the batteries, those units themselves can affect cooling. They can be, run hotter, whatever, because it doesn't have that 30 amp plug. It doesn't have the battery expansion port, doesn't have all that stuff. I think this runs extremely efficiently. If that unit continues to exist, I don't need any of that stuff. But one thing I would like, regardless if that one continues to exist or not, is a physical fast charging switch on the unit. Meaning I can just walk up to it, and if it's in one of my modes I have set in the app, that will be like the down button. But let's just say, for instance, I have it set up in the app to be 300 watts, and I want it to be all slow, and I'm being expeditious, and I'm being nice. But I know I'm leaving to go somewhere in 2 hours, and I'm taking this unit with me. Maybe I left my phone on the nightstand to charge, or I left it in the bathroom after a shower. I would just like to be able to flip a switch, take it to fast charging mode, and it charges itself at a fast speed. Let me show you the testing when it comes to using this with my pool to drain the pool and the solar input as well. So one big scenario for me in the use of the Bluetti and the Elite 200 is the dumping of my pool. I have a hoarder house. I'm always doing DIY projects, cutting wood outside. This thing is perfect to incorporate in my daily life. Let me show you one instance where there's not electricity that's viable near my pool, and I have to keep it dry. All right, so here is my pool, which is under construction. You see the coping has been removed, the tile has been removed. But in the meantime, while I'm waiting for new construction, this can't have water. We've gotten water the last, I think it's been 4 days of rain. So here, the Bluetti Elite 200 will come into use case where I don't have electricity nearby. I got my sump pump right here to pump out the pool. Let's see what we got. This sump pump is 530 watts ripping. To dump this much water, it's probably going to take at least an hour and a half. This is how much power I'm good to go. I'm getting at least 3.5 hours at this rate with the Bluetti. Let me show you. All right. Also, if I want to continue to use the Bluetti, cranking out 530 watts, I could also use the sun to charge it at the same time. It's a really good sun day, and I want to see if I can pump maybe 240 watts into it at the same time. So if we look here, I've got some decent sun. The dot is almost in the middle for this. This is a 240 watt. I think this is my 240 watt solar panel. All right, so solar, I'm getting 172 watts input while pumping out 520 watts continuous with my sump pump, which is probably going to take at least another hour to do. I like the fact that I can give it some juice while using it at the same time. Now, concurrently, this thing can do well over 1,000 watts output, so I'm not worried about 526 watts continuous, but some units can't handle that. Do you hear a fan? Let's just listen. Zero fan noise. I have units from some of their competitors. There's no way I can do 500 continuous watts with two of their biggest competitors, name not be said, and have zero fan noise. And that is why this thing gets crazy good usage out of its AC and DC testing is its ability to control itself. It's matter of fact, it has an indicator that lets you know it's running the fan right now. See that little indicator in the corner? That's the fan indicator. The fan is running. I just don't hear it. So this is the Bluetti. This is the Elite 200 V2. Now here's the thing. A couple of other things I tested I thought were great. Every single unit has passed this test except for one, which is when this unit is at 0, can I plug up a solar input in the middle of the night or at whatever time? And will this unit wake itself up to begin to charge? It does that. That might be important to you because if, let's say, for instance, you have this in your tent and you totally use it at night and you're going to go off for a early morning hike because you want to reach the top of a cliff or some crazy crap like that. You want to know that if you plug a solar panel into this thing and it's dark, when you get back, it has begun to charge. That's important. That's something that you want to think about. This one, I'm not sure what some of their competitors are doing, but this unit, it does not matter if I do a DC or an AC drainage test. When I'm done with that test, I can immediately plug an AC cord into this and begin to recharge it. Two of its top competitors, if I do an AC drainage test and I stress those batteries out, those things one unit needs 45 minutes to an hour to cool itself down before it will even receive an AC charge. And another competitor needs at least 20 or 30 minutes. That's disgusting. The fact that if you stress the batteries out, you stress the unit out, the fans turn on, and you need to charge it, you got to wait 45 minutes to an hour with some of its competitors to do that. Disgusting. What are your comments down below? What are your thoughts down below? Do you think Bluetti is continuing to move itself ahead? Aesthetically, this thing looks good. Do you think that they've knocked this one out the park? I would love to know what your comments down below. And if this is your first time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.